Howdy, folks. I'm your Aunt Raquel's famous green bean casserole.
I'm Amber.
And here's some crumblies.
So wait, since when do I have an Aunt Raquel?
They didn't tell you?
No.
And here's some Reddit. Alright, folks. Our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not wanting to split expenses proportional to income? I live with my boyfriend in a flat that he owns. Fully paid off, his father gave it to him. The whole building was built 6 years ago and it's in a very popular area. I pay my boyfriend half of the market rent rate, which we update every year by looking how much the flats are being rented out for in the building complex, which is a lot of money. But I agree to it. Other than this, we split everything else 50-50 in the past. I got a new job with a significant pay increase, and now my boyfriend says that we should start splitting expenses proportional to income, because that's fair. I added the quotes, folks. I told him I don't think that that's fair, that I should start paying for more just because I got a new job and nothing else changed. I already pay him rent. Enough rent that would get me the same size flat a few streets away, so it's more than fair to him. He made some, in my opinion, very weak arguments and accused me of ripping him off. That's when I told him that under no circumstances we will split expenses proportional to income. Now that I've calmed down a bit, I'm worried whether or not I'm wrong, especially since my best friend told me that this is how they do it with her boyfriend too, and my boyfriend owning a flat is irrelevant here. Am I the jerk? Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. Well, I think that splitting things proportionally is fair in most cases. That's splitting the expenses proportionally. There is no rent expense here. He is just taking your money.
Well, what I want to know, OP, is he counting the money that he's getting off of you as income? Because if he's not counting that as income, it is, right? And so he should still be splitting things proportionally based off of that as well.
Well, and what you should do, OP, is be willing to split expenses proportionally, but get rid of that whole rent thing. You know, you can split the groceries, split the utilities, anything, but do not pay him any more rent. He is not owed that money because he doesn't have a mortgage. He doesn't have he's not paying rent.
Well, I think helping pay the property taxes would be more than fair.
Sure.
And I think that there are certainly, like, when people talk about splitting expenses, it's whatever money is coming out of their pockets. And since he doesn't have any money coming out of his pocket for this house, he's benefiting off of your labor and your hard work. And I think that partners should be working together to help further each other's goal. And I can understand him wanting to be like, oh, we need a fund that's going to allow us to pay for repairs for the house, plumbers, or any number of things, but surely that isn't going to be the fair market rent value of the apartment. So I think that he has a little bit of a twisted perception on what is fair. I just don't see that this is fair. I would say that this is certainly seemingly taking advantage of you.
And so maybe reevaluate this relationship. It seems like he's more concerned about getting OP's money than about having a good partnership.
Yeah, and that's really what concerns me here. I don't think it's unfair to charge some level of rent, again, for like house repairs, but this seems really excessive, especially with like the reevaluating it every year.
Well, he's really just greedy. Like it shows that this isn't like some token amount of rent that, you know, a roommate pays, but again, he's treating OP more like a tenant or a roommate than a partner. You don't charge your partner rent like that. Like if there's a rent bill, sure, you can split it, but there's no rent bill.
Exactly. So anyhow, take care and good luck, OP. And Love's Big Polar says, info, did you make about the same amount as him before the pay raise? Are you making much more than him now? Does he have to pay taxes and insurance on the flat, and that's why you pay rent on a place owned outright? And OP replies, we made very similar amounts when I moved in with him. Then I got a raise, which was almost 15% more than his salary. But he didn't say anything then. Now, with the new job, I earn a little over double than him. There is a communal fee in the building, which includes insurance, cleaning, maintenance of the shared places, and I contribute the half of that too. Edited to add, where we live, rent doesn't usually include the utilities and the communal fee renters pay on top of the monthly rent payments. I pay rent because I would have to if he didn't own that place. I also kind of convinced myself that it doesn't matter that much because we will eventually marry and share all finances, but now I'm starting to think that this was stupid. How long do you think it'll take for them to get engaged? I'm guessing a long time.
Yeah, well, it seems like what's his is his and what's OP's is his.
Exactly. Alright, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for accidentally cursing in front of my pastor brother-in-law? I'm a 27-year-old female and my husband is a 32-year-old male. And I had his older brother, his wife, and 5 kids over for dinner this weekend. Stuff hit the fan, and I wanted some outside opinions about this. So my brother-in-law is a pastor at a pretty popular church in our city. Now, both myself and my husband are not very religious people by any means. We both work in the medical field. He's a cardiologist and I'm a nurse, so we've always had more of a scientific view on things. His side of the family is very religious, so we always keep our views to ourselves to be respectful and go along with the religious things that they do. And I guess, for example, like praying before dinner. Now, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, one thing that they don't condone is cursing, which I'm aware of and I respect when they're around. My husband and I recently bought a new house and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law have been begging us to see it. We're pretty low contact with them as they're pretty over the top with the religious views and shame us for not having the same views. But we thought, why not? So we can see our nieces and nephews. This past weekend, both my husband and I were off of work, so we planned a dinner with them and the kids. Everyone was at the table. Sister-in-law, my husband, and I are in the kitchen bringing the food over, and I'm pulling one of the dishes made out of the oven, and I accidentally lose my grip, and my hand hits the burning hot pan. My first reaction was to yell, "Oh, expletive." My sister-in-law gasps. Husband comes running over and asks if I'm okay and that I should let him take that out. I grab some ice and I head over to the table. Brother-in-law, who's sitting at the table, is sitting there silently shaking his head. Not even a, "Are you all right?" or anything. The first thing he says to me is, "That cursing was very offensive to my family and I know that you know that we don't condone that. Are you going to apologize to me?" I'm kind of sitting there in shock for a moment when my husband comes to my defense and starts explaining to brother-in-law that it wasn't intentional, it was in a moment reaction. He starts going off about how that's unacceptable and that a person of his rank doesn't condone or want to be in the presence of those vile words like that. So I say back to him, "I'm sorry, brother-in-law. Maybe if you weren't acting so holier than thou and got up and helped us in the kitchen, I wouldn't have cursed. And my hand would be fine. Thanks for asking, by the way." They leave shortly after dinner, and ever since then, my husband's side of the family has been bombarding us with texts about how we embarrass brother-in-law and sister-in-law, sending us quotes from the Bible, articles about why cursing is unholy, etc., etc. Husband and I have honestly been getting a good laugh out of this and think that everyone is overreacting, and I kind of feel bad though for my nieces and nephew and feel like maybe I should have bitten my tongue, but I don't know. Am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk, and I don't care how religious you are. If your first reaction when someone injures themselves is, "How dare you swear in my presence?" you're a bad person.
Yeah, I think that his reaction here was certainly not a good reaction, and it wasn't a very loving reaction. In a lot of religions, they place a lot of emphasis on love, compassion, and caring. And in this particular instance, I don't feel like he was being very compassionate. And I think that that was a big mistake on his part. And I think that he really needs to have a more compassionate-oriented perspective on things.
And he also doesn't have any right to control what OP does in her own home. Like, she is not his family member. She's not a member of his congregation. Like, if you're a pastor, yeah, you can minister to your flock and give them advice, but you don't get to control the entire world.
Well, and then also a person of his rank.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is that the Bible teaches that people who are ministers are actually servants of the people. And you're supposed to humble yourself in that presence. So I think that this is not a very good view on whether or not they're a higher ranking or whatnot than someone else.
Well, and like everyone is like, you know, a lot of people have the idea that everyone is equal in the eyes of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him to, he sounds like he just puts himself on a pedestal. And he's one of those people who like, I'm so special. You have to cater to me.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really unfortunate. I really do. So, OP, I don't think that you're in the wrong here. I think that he really should have been more compassionate. That's my big criticism. More compassionate, more loving.
And
So-
it was an automatic reaction to like...
A reflex, yeah.
Yeah, when people get hurt, like they're not necessarily going to be able to control what comes out of their mouth.
Exactly. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Pastor Graham says, not the jerk. As a pastor, I can say that when we worry more about words than relationships, we are in the weeds and have lost sight of God. Also, there have been some studies that show that cursing actually helps people deal with physical pain. We cancer patients are fluent. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, please tell me that you have a joke about whales.
I did not. I'm sorry. You need to give me these ahead of time so I can look for them. All right, let me see. Are there any whale jokes on this page?
You could just go with the original joke. I was just being ridiculous.
Well, I hate when I don't live up to your expectations. It's so much pressure.
Well, what was your original joke going to be?
What do you call an alligator wearing a vest?
I mean, alligators are pretty close to whales. I mean, they both live underwater, and they're both big, and they're both scaly. Maybe whales aren't very scaly, but you could pretend if you put like a scales on a whale, then they could both be scaly. So, what do you get when you put a vest on an alligator?
What do you call it?
Oh, you call it a whale. No,
an investigator.
Actually.
It's great, isn't it?
Oh no, that was actually very, very good. I don't think I've heard that one at all in any form before. So, well played. And I have Mega Mint tea. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week. At least most of us did. Amber, what is the moral of today's story? And please involve at least one sea mammal.
I think one moral we can take away from today is that if you want whale jokes, you have to let your joke person know in advance.
Oh, so you're putting this on me. I refuse to accept blame here. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.